Yeah, and I just have fun just trying to find old shit. And half the time when I'm looking for old shit, you'll see, oh, well, here's new shit of that same genre, right? Like, there's a couple good channels on YouTube that's real good about keeping up with the new thrash and uh, the new wave of American heavy metal and stuff like that, which is, I think, technically what they call that genre, that 2000s genre, that early 2000s new wave of American heavy metal. And it's like thrash and metalcore and death metal and progressive death metal, and all the bands are kind of just all kind of the same style, kind of just in that category. But there's a lot of diversity between each band when it comes to style.
Right.
And dude, I mean, it was great music, and I still listen to a lot of it. Like a band, people probably never heard of, God forbid. They were a great freaking band. And they put out, I think, maybe 4 albums and a couple EPs as well. And dude, when I heard that first album, Determination, holy crap. I was just like, it took me back to that 80s thrash sound, but they're a metal core band, so it had those hardcore elements with it, right? And that shit just turned me on, dude. I was like, hell yeah, I can fucking listen to this all day.
Right.
And bands like The Haunted. The Haunted was just like, imagine Pantera on steroids and then throw in like murder mystery shit.
Right.
Yeah, dude. The Haunted's freaking great, man.
I mean,
I saw them live and they just ripped my freaking face off. They opened for Cannibal Corpse. I met Corpse Grinder, and that dude, it's real what they say. That dude's a freaking giant. I shook his hand and I think I came off the ground. Like, he's freaking huge, man. Like, he's the size of an NFL football player. Like, he's big.
kind of looks like the lead singer from Amon Amarth. Just big, bulky,
Yeah.
and solid freaking oak tree.
That dude is freaking huge, man.
Here's another little metal topic area we can go down. Bands that were similar to or are currently similar to Gwar.
Gwar, G.
GWAR. Yep.
Okay.
They have the
Similar
big
to.
fucking costumes, but they were metal and they were decent. They weren't necessarily saying we're going to be great or we're awesome musicians. They're good, but they won't tell you that they're better than they are because they just want to
Well,
have fun.
their whole point was just the same as uh, Allison Cooper or Allison Cooper, Alice Cooper. Rob Zombie.
Gore metal.
Merciful Fate. It was like the shock value of it, right?
Yeah.
But there's actual musicianship there at the same time, and that's how they can make something simple sound so damn good.
Right. And then it kind of spawns off things kind of like Slipknot, the way he dresses, with the masks and things. And, you get other
Well, what was
bands.
it? Mushroom Head, Slipknot, and Moto Grader. That's like the like, I guess, three main mask units.
Right. Yeah, I mean there's a few others out there like Ghost.
Yeah.
He does
Oh
pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
He does pretty good. I wouldn't classify him as metal. He's kind of like a mellow version of King Diamond.
Yeah.
You can tell he's trying to imitate King Diamond, but he's a lot more mellow. He's not freaking super high screams. He's not super fast, heavy metal. He's
But he's
just
just doing everything kind of in an operatic production
yeah,
style.
yeah. He's trying to play the demon preaching to the church. you know,
Yeah.
confess your sins and come with me.
Well, when all the hubbub blew up about Ghost, I had no clue who they were, and I was like, well, let me go see who Ghosts are and go check these guys out. And I was just like, whoa, well, yeah,
It's
it's music.
it's
It's
not
music.
it's not bad. It is kind of dark. Once you understand the whole spoof of his act, it's the demon
Yeah, and
preaching
it's
to
got
the
a real
church.
kind of pop feel to it. The music has a real kind of more mainstream
Yeah, yeah.
ballady kind of feel to it.
But see, he harkens back to the King Diamond thing where he's using the music and the songs to tell a story. right?
Yeah.
And he's trying to keep the story alive long enough throughout the whole thing to keep the crowd at the concert entertained, right?
Right.
So they don't lose the interest. And I think they could change their focus a little bit to do more of what they do and why they do it instead of, oh, we're doing it to get you to watch us so we can get the watch time or the ticket sales or whatever, more money based, check their motive a little bit. But all in all, a decent band in a way. I wouldn't put them in my top 10, but there's definitely some cool stuff in there. And then you get
Yeah.
bands like Ailstorm. I don't know if you've heard of Ailstorm. It's
Lizzie Hale rocks, man. But
no, no, no,
like a
no,
lot of
no,
bands,
no, not hail, just ALE, as in rum, pirate metal. I mean, they would call it pirate metal, but
oh, Hailstorm. I got you. Yeah.
I wouldn't call it pirate metal as much as party metal, because that's
Yeah.
really what they are. Is they're a party. They don't care
And,
where they're going. They're gonna drink, man.
and their album covers are like, like these old renderings of like ghost pirate ships,
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Drink,
And the
drink,
music's not,
drink.
they're not a horrible band.
No, they're actually pretty damn good. But like I said, they're more party metal. You get
It
the
is.
heavy
It's
metal, you
definitely
get the
got
decent lyrics, you get the keyboard, you get the satire. They're all just
yeah.
dudes wearing white shirts and shorts and flip flops, but they're playing heavy metal.
It's like if Andrew WK made a pirate metal band.
Yeah. Big ship, little ship. Oh, fuck you with an anchor. That song, dude. Holy shit, man. That makes me laugh every time I jam out to that one. Fuck you.
Whoa, yo.
Yeah. I mean, there's some badass shit, like, whoa, I got a hangover. Whoa. Some of it's kind of like an anthem type of stuff, but it's fun. It's enjoyable. It carries its own vibe,
There's a new age or new wave thrash metal band called Toxic Holocaust. You ever heard of them?
Sounds familiar.
And they're the exact same thing. It's the normal thrash metal version of Ailstorm, right? It's all about smashing beer cans on your head and keg parties, and they're pretty fun. They're pretty fun.
How often?
Super thrashy.
How often do you listen to a band where they sing in their own language, not American? Have you ever heard of Korpaklani?
No, but there is one. What is that? There was one here recently. Ah, crap! Alien Weaponry.
Okay.
And they're from Brazil, and they have a few songs that they only sing in Brazilian or Portuguese, I should say. Sorry, but that's probably the only thing since maybe I heard something on Roots or Soulfly album.
Right. Yeah, you don't hear a whole lot, but Korpaklani, they have a few songs like Vodka, Man with a Plan, a few other songs where they sing in English, but they also sing, I want to say it's Nordic, maybe not Netherlands or Sweden, but it's definitely cold tundra type areas. He's got a song called Bita, which is beer. He walks into a bar, looks at the bartender, he's like, Bita, right? And he throws down the mug, he fills it up, and next thing you know, he's drinking with the boys. They're jamming out, having a blast. Then he wakes up in a pile of horse shit next to a pig. He's like, normal morning, just another day. But
what was the band from France? They came out probably around 2012-ish. Really super progressively heavy, but not fast. They had an album called Avant Sauvage or something like that. Really socially conscious metal guys. And I'm just trying to think of their name. And they had songs on their album in French.
Cool.
They're super heavy, like sounding, but they're more of the new style. They're not gent. It's not gent by any matters, but Really wish I could remember the name of the band. I hate when I do that.
Well,
But they had a couple of heavy albums, and they got popular there for. Huh?
You just threw another name out there that brings up a topic. The women that can growl, Ginger. She's fucking violent, dude.
That bitch is scary.
She's kind of like an Alyssa White Glues from Arch Enemy, the blue hair and shit.
Oh, by the way, I listened to some of the what is the band you were talking about last night? Follow the Archers?
Unleash the Archers?
Unleash the Archers. I listened to a couple tracks to them a few minutes ago, right before we jumped on here, man.
It's pretty decent. It's not super, super heavy, but it's very intricate.
Well, I didn't search for that band, and we were talking about them last night.
And it pops
all of a
up.
sudden today they're in my feed on YouTube. So what the hell's for real going on?
Well, thank you, Big Brother, eye in the sky, whatever.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Judas Priest, Electric Eye. They were trying to let us know in the 80s, man.
Yep. Private. Yep. Nope. Not happening.
Electric Eye.
In the sky.
Was that on Screaming for Vengeance?
Yep.
It was, wasn't it? So you had
Defenders of the Faith
was its own album. Okay.
Yep. Defenders of the Faith, and then Screaming for Vengeance, and then you had Turbo.
Great fucking album.
Turbo was pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't care because they just had too much of a pop element in Turbo. And what's the other one? The other one that had like the picture of the highway, I guess, or what it was. I can't remember the name.
Hellbent for Leather. Yeah. Hellbent for Leather.
No, it was just like a picture of a highway.
Point of Entry.
There you go. Both of that one, Point of Entry and Turbo. And they actually started to lose me on Ram It Down.
Ram It Down, to me, I have that, and that is a badass one. To me, shortly after that, they got a little off track. But in a way, it was kind of like what happened with Kiss. They were really good back in the day, and then they got in that disco era, and then they got back into heavy metal again,
Well, see, that's just the way Judas Priest has always been for me. Because I can go back to Sad Wings of Destiny or Rock-a-Rolla, and you put that shit on, and I ain't gonna say a damn fucking thing about that.
No doubt,
but
man.
I'm that way kind of with everybody. There's albums that I really don't care for, and I'm not gonna put it in my collection or listen to it.
Right.
I'm gonna give them their props as a band. I'm not gonna down it. But at the same time, I'm just, really. They really upped the ante when they brought out Painkiller, so it's really hard for me to go backwards with them, man.
Yeah, honestly, Screaming for Vengeance would be about the only one that almost compares to Painkiller as far as definitely. Like best album.
And you can definitely hear some of that style coming from crossing over into Painkiller, just the writing style and the overall storytelling.
And the back and forth with the guitars, too.
Yeah.
Where you'd hear a steady riff, but yet this dude's playing the riff. No, this dude's playing the riff. No, this dude's playing the riff, right? They didn't always do that. Most of the time they're like, okay, I'm going to be the riff man. You do your solo today on this song. I'll do the next song, and then I'll do it. They kind of got away from their roots of, no, we are back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah, I remember early days of picking up the guitar, and I would listen to bands like Slayer. And, Slayer, in every song, they had two solos, and it was King and Hanneman. And they each had one, and then sometimes they each had two. And that was like the first band that, like, I noticed something like that on. Like, I was like, oh, they're both fucking badasses, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's fucking cool, right? So I was impressed with that right off the bat. With Slayer, that was one of the things that impressed me right off the bat. And two, Slayer sound like no one else, and no one else sounds like Slayer, even to this day.
Right.
You got bands that try, but they don't sound like Slayer.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the two kings of all metal Ronnie James Dio, and Lemmy Kilmister.
Oh shit.
I mean,
Ronnie James
how can
Dio.
we have a metal show without freaking Motorhead and Dio, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it might not be thrash metal, speed metal, death metal, but it was pure metal, you know?
Lemmy is the guy I get for the street fight.
Yeah.
And Ronnie James Dio is the guy I get to sing over my fucking metal album.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the guy you party with.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I've actually been, and some people will know this. If you knew anybody I know, I've said that Ronnie James Dio was probably the greatest heavy metal singer of all time. Just, I got to give the dude his fucking props, man. You got guys like Rob Halford and King Diamond and the dude I forget his name from Sabotage. Such great vocalists out there, but damn it, Ronnie James just was in that fucking pocket, dude.
Well, that was the thing, man. He had a wide range. He could go high and low. He can go fast and slow. He can go hard and soft. He knew how to control his song, you know.
Bruce Dickinson. I mean, you take those two, they both had like a real theatrical style in just the way they sung.
Yep.
You know, they had like real live hand and body gestures as they would sing these tracks to you, like, yeah, you know, they're in it.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, he definitely stole the show, you know. I don't even know who any of the other guitar, bass, drums, or whatever from Dio, but I know fucking Ronnie James, you know.
Well, and you can start a real nice fight. Just go Black Sabbath,
With
Ozzy
Ronnie.
or Dio.
Yeah.
You say Ozzy or Dio, and the fight is on.
Yeah, there's definitely a wedge drawn in there for a lot of people.
There's just as many people that love and think that Ronnie James Dio era is better than Ozzy's ever was, and there's just the opposite. And then you got people like me. I'm like, bro, I like every single Black Sabbath album that I've ever listened to. I don't know who you are.
Right. Yeah, to me it doesn't matter if it's Ronnie or Ozzy, you know.
Yeah.
They're both Black Sabbath. To me,
Exactly.
Black Sabbath is Tommy Iommi. The way he plays,
definitely.
you know, because
it's all about that sound from those first few albums, you know, that just
when you
the song Black Sabbath, After the Rain, and that guitar kicks in.
I mean,
holy shit.
It doesn't really matter which band you do it with, but when you heard those first 2 or 3 notes of the first time ever hearing a band, it either grabs you or it just goes right over your head.
Right.
You know, it could be the number one new song on the radio, or it could just be a B-side album or whatever, right? When you hear those first few notes and you're like, whoa, dude, you know it's on.
Didn't they get changes on the radio? I mean, I know it got played later in years in classic rock radio, but did they or did they not actually get changes on the radio in the 70s?
Oh, good call. I wasn't there for the 70s.
Well, I wasn't. I was a little turd nugget, but
I was
don't
born.
remember it.
I was born in 75, so by 1980, I still didn't have a brain.
I was born in 73. I was born in 73. So yeah, I think they actually might have actually gotten changes on the radio, maybe in New York and California. Who knows? But yeah, another band that, you know, basically started the movement, and we could talk about that too. But didn't get any gratitude, didn't get any props until way later, like 8 albums in, you know. And we could talk about who started the movement. I mean, if you want to go Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, then Black Sabbath, I'll jump on that boat with you. I mean, that's cool.
Well, I mean, Rainbow, Deep Purple, they were, like I said, you know, back in the day, it was rock. Parents would tell their kids, "Oh, that's freaking acid rock," and blah blah blah. You know, they kind of gave it its name in a way, but it just wasn't Buddy Holly or acceptable.
Well, you also had bands like Mountain back then who were just cranking out humongous sound.
Mississippi Queen. That riff, dude. That's a hell of a riff.
And then another one I'll drop late 70s. A lot of people don't know. And this band these two bands I'll drop, Trouble and St. Vitus, probably started the stoner rock movement, that southern sludge rock that everybody likes now. And I like it too.
Right.
Bands like Down, they were like in between. They weren't totally stoner sludge, but they kind of like that's kind of like a gateway into that style, and that's what kind of led me to that. And through the band Down, that's how I learned about St. Vitus and Trouble. I didn't never know who they were.
Well, here's a good little segue. Grunge metal and Danzig. Slow but heavy.
Right.
I mean, whether it was Mother or, there's quite a few different Danzig songs out there that you can get that same really heavy, slow rhythm, kind of grunge like, right?
Yeah.
Where it wasn't just speed in your face. It was like methodical. It's like, I'm gonna punch you. Oh, you're ducking. We're gonna undercut. We're gonna this. They knew how to throw the music at you at a pace where you couldn't avoid it when it was coming.
Danzig 1, 2, and 3 is definitely where the pocket's at for that band. Later in years they got a little heavy. With that Demon Sweat Thrall album was pretty heavy. But I think 3, they had the song Dirty Black Summer.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually was a more like mainstream Danzig song. But he took that song and did exactly what you're saying. It's not super like heavy, crunchy, but it feels like dirty.
Yeah, it's when you slow it down enough that you feel like you're oppressed. Like you're being smothered almost. That was dark. It's kind of like, you're depressed. Here, let me give you some medicine. Here, play Danzig.
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't depressed, were you? Now you are.
So have you ever heard of a band called Conan? Like Conan the Warrior, Conan.
It's possible. It's possible.
They tout themselves as being the heaviest band in the world.
So did Manowar.
Right. Well,
they even put out the album Kings of Metal.
Yeah. Well, these guys are like along the lines of like that stoner, the sludge stoner, the really slow, super deep heaviness. But yeah, I listened to a couple of their albums a couple of years ago. I was like, who's Conan? And it was like, oh, they're supposed to be the heavy, and they may be one of the slowest. They got some really slow songs.
Here's another YouTube trick that I learned with my editing. If it's not the length of a song, let's say I throw in something like Deicide, right? Really heavy, really dark, whatever. If I took that 200 plus beats per minute and I stretched it and slowed it down to go from like a 10-second clip into like a 30-second clip, their algorithm bot, whatever, can't figure out what song that is.
Right.
Because it's not matching up beat for beat. Okay, it's not that song. Oh, it's not this song. Oh, it's not that song. So you get past the 10, 12 seconds and they're like, well, it's not copyright music. I've also, there's some videos on my channel where I'll take like a 3-minute song, but I only need like a minute and 40 seconds. So I'll fucking shrink it down so it plays super fast, kind of like the Alvin and Simon Chipmunks kind of music, right?
Right.
But it does the same thing. You can't catch the fucking drum beat, so you can't say it's that song because it's not that drum beat. You know what I mean?
Huh.
So it's kind of a nifty little trick, but I think taking something that's like super heavy, super fast, like Dragon Force, right? Super heavy, super fast, super common, but stretch it out to like a 2 minute song into like an 8 minute song. You know, slow it way down to get you that slow grunge feel out of it.
Right.
You know, and then all the vocals, no matter if you're singing high, when you slow it down, you get into the lower, slower voice, you know. Speaking of, let's give the folks out there a heads up on what's up with Pickles. Time for our weekly Pickles report.
We got the Pickles report right here, fellers and fellettes. So, like I said earlier, these are from 2, 3, 4, 12 party sources. You take it however you want it, but word is, I heard he got kicked out of Whacking.
Out of Whacking open air?
And
That's a hell of a task.
Get kicked out of something like that.
I can see getting kicked down and kicked around, but getting kicked out, yeah, that's pretty hard to do.
Well, apparently, a couple eyewitnesses had corroborating stories. He was apparently drunk and disorderly. He was, throwing empty beer bottles at people.
Not Pickles.
Yeah, it's not surprising to us, right?
No, not really, no.
The dude's a freaking wild man. And then he keeps talking about the pussycats, his little, he's got female bodyguards, dude.
His hair.
I don't know what this guy's on, man, but he's like the Andrew Tate, of metal gods out here. Bands just let him walk up on stage, in the middle of the song, and just dude, I don't know what it is, man.
Well, if
Pickles is a metal god.
If you know cats, you can't train them. You can't control them. They're going to walk up on your shelves. They're going to jump at your TV. They're going to swat at you on the way by. They're cats.
Hey. And by the way, Pickles, if you're listening to this, dude, we cannot use those emails. Stop sending the pictures. We can't use that stuff, man. He's on a whole nother level, bro.
Yeah, it's not socially correct. He's out there, bro.
Yeah.
So
can't put that cat on a leash.
I do got a question about Pickles, and I'll probably have to ask him myself. Is Pickles?
Well, he did a little stint himself for that catnip incident.
I was going to ask, is Pickles a jarhead?
Is he a jarhead? I don't think he's I don't know if he's a Marine.
Well, not a Marine, a jarhead. Because Pickles come in a jar and they got a lid on it. So I was just wondering if he was a jarhead,
Wah, wah, wah. Yeah.
Somebody had to ask.
That one literally zoomed over my head for a second.
He's probably going to come and piss over and dump my litter box out after that. Yeah, come drop a deuce in my litter box.
Well, right now, after getting kicked out of Whacking and obviously, somebody had to bail his ass out of jail. He's probably sleeping it off for a week or so to the next show. I don't even know what's going right now. I think Hellfest is still going right now. Well, so you never know. He might wind up there next week.
Well, we'll contact the police department and see if we can get an update on how he's doing and if he's even in jail or if they're all partying at the jail. I don't know. Could be a jailhouse rock for all I know.
He has a good way of worming out of situations. So it's a 50-50 chance that the police were able to even cuff his ass. Who knows where he's at?
He's probably hanging out with model cars with Glenn's granny. The two of them together would be a party. Tell you what.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he's definitely a wild black metal cat.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So that's your current update status on Pickles.
That's about all I got on Pickles right now. You guys stay tuned next week. I might have a little something more. Who knows what that crazy cat's going to get into?
Keep your eye on the milk cartons. He might be missing.
Or if your milk carton is missing, he might be living secretly in your damn house.
Yeah. Any pickle sightings, let us know in the comments below.
Definitely.
It's kind of like the Santa tracker, but it's the pickle tracker. Where's he at? What's he doing? Yep.
We didn't never really finish that about Lemmy and Ronnie James. So on the Lemmy end of it, you know, I don't know. Great frontman, so freaking awesome. What more can you say that hasn't already been said about Lemmy? But definitely, dude, I'd want to have a beer with. Um, uh, Chosen frontman, I don't know, but I definitely want him on bass. I don't care what kind of band it is, like death metal, whatever. I want him on bass.
You know, when I had mentioned the band Sabaton the other day with the song Metal Crew, where they talk about all the band names in that song,
Right?
they did another one, and it was kind of like they were walking through the streets of a town, and they were going through like a time span kind of thing, bringing back memories, bringing them to the forefront. And Lemmy Kilmister was in that video, walking with Sabaton. You know,
Nice.
honoring him and doing that kind of thing, you know, as a metal god, a leader, a follower of Killmeister kind of thing, you know. So I mean that in and of itself, just that little segment in the video was just like tearjerker almost for some of us, you know.
Right. Well, and Metallica did that song on their last album, Murder One. That was a homage to Lemmy, and in the video too. Like Lemmy's in the video,
You know, this is something we haven't talked about, but obviously you and I are both model builders. To build the train off of the Motorhead album would be an
Oh,
awesome.
Orgasmatron. Is that what they call that train?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think that would be an awesome build. You know, very metal, very cool, very iconic. You know,
Yeah.
very detailed too. So I'm not sure I can pull that off. I mean, I'm sitting here playing with this plastic stuff. I can make some shit out of nothing, but man,
Yeah, that would be wicked. Like, I mean, I guess you would basically start with a basically smoke engine locomotive, and then just kind of go from there. I don't know. It might not be so hard these days. You could have that Motorhead freaking skull thing 3D printed and just retrofit it onto the train.
well, I do have something I can start with.
Well, there you go.
I mean, it's a
Yeah,
train. It's a train. That's all I need for starters. And then
yeah.
put all the cattle guard and the cool badass shit on it, the eyeballs and everything
It's
else.
the
And
right kind of train. So it's the
yeah,
right kind of train.
and it's not super big. I mean, it's only a little over a foot long, maybe 16 inches. You know, so
Right,
it's not going to take up 4 foot of shelf space. You know, but I think
right,
that would be kind of cool to do something like that with this. You know, because otherwise, I'm not going to build a train. You know?
right. Yeah.
So why?
Earlier we were talking about Metallica and bands tied to Metallica. I forgot Suicidal Tendencies, man. Rob's in the band now.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fucking cool.
I grew up with money. You know, send me your money. We'll take your grandma's gold teeth.
I was already on them before that came off of what was that? Lights, Camera, Revolution.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was already 3 albums deep before that one came out. I love Suicidal Tendencies. They were killer.
They were big skateboarder guys, and they got
Yeah,
into the Thrasher skateboard magazine crowd, and
yeah.
they were kind of like the Green Day concert at those skating events. You know, they
I got your Thrasher music right here because I hung out with BMX guys and we rode and I hung out with skateboarders and it's uh Anthrax that who were we just talking about? Damn it.
suicidal tendencies.
Suicidal Tendencies, Anthrax, and then you always had something thrown in like the Dead Milkmen
Mm-hmm.
or something like that,
And
right?
say that would be a little more on the punk side, which was
Yeah.
Thrasher. It was Thrasher.
But it was there and that's what them guys were playing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and a lot of
Yeah.
that's kind of West Coast, warm weather. You're out doing
Oh,
extreme
and
sports and shit.
Fu Manchu also.
Yeah, there's some good shit back in the day, man.
Yeah, man.
I used to get the BMX Plus magazine all the time. I had probably like 4 or 5 years worth of subscription to that. I still to this day have 3 dyno GTs. They're
What?
they're rusty as fuck and flat tires and need to be taken apart and all re-greased, but they're dynos, legit dyno GTs, man.
Man, I'd love to have one. My buddy had one. His was all black and had spoke rims. Freaking, I love that bike, man.
I got 2 of them with spokes and one of them with 5 star, with just a normal 5 star thing. I've
Black
always
mag. Yeah.
I've always wanted like a Hutch Wind Styler or a Skyway. I was never really
Yeah.
big on the Haro or the Redline or the Mongoose.
No,
but
I wanted a Skyway so bad when I was younger. Oh yeah, definitely wanted a Skyway. I had a Hutch BMX, just the regular old chromoly Hutch, no graphics on it, nothing.
Yep.
Just had the
Clean and
iron
simple.
cross plate in the between the top and bottom bar, and that was it.
Hell yeah.
You always tell a Hutch though, because that back hub, it was rounded like that.
Yep.
Had that big horseshoe shape in the end of there. A lot of them came more to a point.
Yeah, Hutch.
Always see a Hutch coming, buddy. Mongoose started using that style too.
Yep.
For a while.
Well, I mean, when you're doing certain tricks and you need that platform to stand on or whatever, that's kind of how they all looked somewhat similar, but they had to keep their own little the brace gusset that's up by the neck, or the little piece that goes off on the back axle, or
like GT and Dyno were the first ones to put steps on the frame, on the upper bars, behind the seat post and up by the gooseneck on the top bar.
Yeah.
But I love the shape of GTs and Dynos. I mean, they're basically same company. They're two different companies making the same bike, kind of in the same factory.
Well, they did collaborate after a while. You were getting GT tires and pedals and seat posts and seat and handlebars from GT, but they were all on a dyno frame.
Yep.
Yep. And then you had your own dyno sprocket with a GT crank in it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
which was cool with me. It was cool with everybody, because if you didn't go Odyssey, if you didn't have Odyssey, like that next one was like, you either wanted an Odyssey or a GT 3-piece crank. Either one was cool.
Yep. Yeah, GT was definitely some pretty solid, hardcore, heavy guy landing.
I wanted a Diamondback gooseneck too, always.
Yeah, the pedal bike stuff was too, the pedal bike was my scene. I was never the skateboarder, but we're both at the park.
Me too. I just hung out with a lot of skaters.
Yeah, we're both at the park. We're riding rails or freaking hitting half pipes or quarter pipes or whatever we're fucking doing,
Smoking doobs.
It was more the street style, where nowadays you have BMX parks and skate parks, right? With all the ramps and rails and bowls and everything else. Back in the day, it was a flat parking lot. And that was street styling.
Any kind of incline curve you could find, any kind of grade you could find, or swimming pools for the skater guys. They love the swimming pool. Yep. And the BMX guys, they get up in there and start doing some of that freestyle shit. They ride them pools too, man.
Yep.
I was never a half pipe guy. I was never flying in the air, other than if I was jumping on a BMX track or something like that, which, we kind of like had some half-ass homemade versions of stuff like that. We lived out in the country, so it was like a 10-mile bike ride if you wanted to go in town where we were at. So.
If it wasn't for my back and my body being degraded and decrepit by now, if I could get back on the bike and easily ride a mile away from home and ride back without being winded every like 50 pedals, you know what I mean? I live literally 1.8 miles from town to the gas station, but there's a massive valley in there. I could get down the valley, but I wouldn't be getting back up the other side. You know what I mean? So if I could ever get to the point where I could ride through that valley, not feel winded on a BMX that doesn't have multiple gears, because that's the hard part. If I could do that, I would love to again have a half pipe in my yard. And have it surrounded by a little BMX track with some berms and some whoops and tabletops and things, I wouldn't go quite so far as like a hell track or a full on skate park, but just something
right?
to go out in the yard and freaking hang tent a little bit, you know?
We had where we lived out in the country. There was like this giant loop. It was a whole massive area. It wasn't small by any means, but you came in one way, and eventually you got to the end, and it would loop back around and come back up through a whole different neighborhood and come back around to that road you came in. And right in the center of both of those roads were two gigantic freaking hills, one on each side. And so you had one, and it didn't matter which side you were on, you had to go down and back up. And they were so steep that we had to ride our bikes this way, like this, up the hill, across the damn road, because just going straight up, man, just wear your ass out.
Right.
And you get to a point where you're just standing still on the pedal. You're like pushing it, it don't go no more.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of metal and skateboarding, the old movie Gleaming the Cube, the old California skateboarding scene where he's sketching on the back of vehicles and wicked jumps and kick ass freaking skateboards themselves and shit.
You got Lords of Dogtown and the Z Boys as well.
Yeah, I mean the soundtracks were pretty decent and stuff for back in the day. I mean nowadays it's cheesy music, but it's still badass,
No, man, that skater thrash is cool shit, man. I like it. It's it's like it's that whole punk thrashy. I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna play this shit. You're gonna like it. If you don't, fuck you.
Right.
That's the attitude. That's the whole attitude of punk.
And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, to me, it's a personality in and of itself.
Yeah.
It's the you can say what you want. Your opinion of me don't matter. What you think of me is none of my business. I'm doing my thing. If you got a problem with that, that's your problem. And I enjoy that kind of mentality stuff. It's like dude's just doing his thing. He's not people pleasing. He's not trying to sell a persona for you to buy. He's just doing his thing, man, and he's jamming it.
Yes, sir. Now, and like kind of back to what we were talking about, like when the genres all started changing, kind of maybe I could bring it back full circle here, and it's been a really good, cool first episode here, man. I've had lots of fun, and I'm looking forward to doing this, man, more often as we can. But back in those days, like there was a lot of judgment. I had two separate like cliques that I ran with. I had my buddies that we were all beer drinking, thrash metal guys, and then I also hung out with the beer drinking death metal guys. And those two worlds just for some reason didn't like each other much. They really didn't mesh well in the 90s. Like and it mostly come from the death metal guys. The death metal guys were like, everything that's softer than death metal is fucking pussy ass poser shit. And that's what kind of more where it stemmed from. But I think they felt that way because thrash guys like had more of that punk attitude. They don't give a fuck, dude.
Yep.
And those worlds freaking butted heads for a long time, man. And that's kind of what kind of made that genre divide, where the genres were almost like warring with each other, for a while there.
Yeah, and it was never a vote of the audience. Like say you had two death metal and a thrash metal guitarist, and you'd put them head to head, and the crowd would cheer. Yeah, I want this one. No, I want this one. Or there was never any of that, like publicly in a way. It was all like you said. The death metal guy would be like, "Yeah, you guys suck. You ain't fast enough. You ain't heavy enough."
I can't tell you how many times I heard them say "fuck Metallica."
Yeah,
and it was, dude. I was like, "Whoa, you struck me to my core, buddy."
Yeah. And that's one of the big things I grew up with a lot. The guy that I used to hang out with all the time, we'd cruise Main Street looking for chicks and stuff. He was born and raised Metallica. Didn't really care for Megadeth, although he had peace selves, of course. He didn't really care for any of the other stuff. I was born and raised Megadeth. Didn't really care so much for Metallica. So we
Right.
butted heads on that all the time, you know. It's like, oh
a
man,
lot of it's in good fun, right? Because you both probably like both bands.
yeah, honestly, I mean, it's metal. What's not to like, right?
Right.
I mean, you could throw on Metallica, Justice for All. I'm going to bang my head just as hard as I would with So Far So Good. So what?
Right.
What's the difference? It's metal, man. Right? But
And that's what, I was always caught in the middle of all that shit because I'm like, dude, I love both. I love it all, man.
see,
You
this
know?
this is where the issue is. I didn't have a problem with either of them, although I had a preference towards Megadeth.
Right.
My Metallica buddy, he had that alpha dominant kind of thing of, yeah, you're a piece of shit. You're a fucking Megadeth fan. You know, that attitude kind of thing, which always kept the head butting part of it together.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and I got to the point where I was like, yeah, well, that's his opinion. I'll play with him about it instead of playing into it and letting him dominate me. You know, it's like, yeah, you can tell me that Megadeth sucks, but I'll tell you what, man, there's many other bands out there that don't even come close to either of them. He's like, yeah, you're right.
Well,
You know, so that's what I
this,
mean by
this
I'd
is
play
actually
to it. You know, I would keep it alive, so it would be a conversation without a sting on it. You know,
that's actually one of the hardest conversations two metalheads can have, and we'll close on this. This is a good thing to end on. So yes, let's talk about Metallica versus Megadeth because by no means are these two bands the same.
at all.
They are drastically different in every shape, way, and form, and every single song that they've ever produced. They're drastically different. Metallica, they have a very, very talented writing style. They're able to really grasp, visual images in their song style writing, their writing style. And Megadeth just is a better fucking guitar player. I don't care what you say. Dave Mustaine is better, dude. He's better. But as a band,
If you were to compare Dave Mustaine against Kirk Hammett, it'd be a fairer fight. But
dude, let's just put Megadeth against Metallica. You can take both guns from both bands. You can take the whole band. Look at the drummers of Megadeth. Lars wouldn't be able to keep up with them guys.
yeah, he'd struggle probably. I mean, he'd probably be capable,
Even
but you know,
even as great as Cliff Burton was, he ain't hanging with no Marty Friedman on Rust in Peace, dude.
yeah, no shit. Tornado of
And neither
Souls.
and now Rob, maybe Rob can do it because that's Rob's era. He was a young lad coming up in Suicidal Tendencies when all that music was coming out new and fresh. So
right.
he could probably play a lot of Megadeth songs, but it's bass,
So
right?
let's go back to the little bit of the breaking point between there on this topic. Some would say, well, there'd be no Metallica without Dave Mustaine because he was there in the beginning, right? I can't say that there wouldn't be no Metallica without Dave Mustaine because they were looking for a guitarist. They would have filled that void with somebody.
And
What
yeah,
and let's just say for posterity's sake that it turned out the way it did. We got Metallica all the way to this day, right?
and wasn't it? I keep going off camera with my finger.
Yeah.
And wasn't it Ron McGovney in the band before Dave Mustaine was?
Well, I know they had their like the garage band, and then they had the bar band, and then they got big enough to go get an album. You know, they all started with cover tracks somewhere. You know.
Well, no, I mean Ron McGovney was the first guitar player before Dave Mustaine.
Well,
In Metallica,
that's what I mean. They have a lineage. You know.
right?
I mean, it's just that at what point did the album come out, and who was on it, and where did it go, and whatnot, right?
So we'll start there. So would there be Metallica if there was no Dave Mustaine? I think he had a big influence on their writing style on Kill 'Em All. I think he definitely, I don't think he just put his 2 cents and wrote a couple tracks and then just went and got drunk. I definitely don't think that.
Right.
The album, but the album also has more British metal style influences and stuff like that. But I do think that, yeah, Metallica would have still been a band, but I don't think they would have been what they were. Like those first three albums really put them on the map, dude.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean,
think of it.
and those,
Neither you nor I have any idea who their circle of friends was that they could have picked from that played guitar to fill Dave's spot.
right.
You know, so I mean, for all we know, they could have been from New York City, where they had the pick of the litter of anybody they wanted. You know,
Well, I
they
watched a few things about the Bay Area thrash and all these bands when they were coming up, and you know, they were never courting Kurt. Kurt would go see them play and was like, he was, saying he was amazed at watching them play. And Kurt wanted to be in Metallica.
right.
Now, whether he reached out to him or it was just passing at a party one night and be like, hey guys, if you ever need anybody, whatever, da 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 da. But ultimately, that was gonna come to a head when the band whose nickname is Alcoholica is kicking you out of the band for being drunk.
Yeah,
Like, come on, you've pushed your limits a little.
right. But I mean,
Yeah,
think of alternative great guitarists nowadays. If Metallica back in the day, instead of choosing Dave Mustaine, say they chose Yngwie Malmsteen, but yet they still ended up with the same they have nowadays, but it would actually be faster in a way.
I don't know. It might be faster, but it damn sure be more flamboyant.
Well, if you know the story of Yngwie, he would go home and he would record it at home. And then he would take that tape and he'd bring it to the studio and he'd play it and he'd play along with it. And after about 3 or 4 times, he's like, man, this is faster than when I was originally starting. I can see the beats per minute ain't lining up anymore. What's going on? His recording at home was fast, right? So it was like a higher speed recording. And then he'd just go and play it at play speed. And then he would try to keep up with it and share it with the band. But then he'd take that track, go home, put it in his player, which was faster. And it was just subtle enough that he progressively got extremely freaking quick. Right. And that to me was an interesting part of Yngwie Malmsteen as to why people think of him as a shredder, if you will. You know?
Right. Well, he obviously is.
Well, definitely. You know.
But the feel of Metallica and versus the feel of where Yngwie wanted to take his stuff is like, two different worlds, right?
Well, let's throw in Ian Hill then. From Anthrax. What if he was up in the option?
No, you mean Scott Ian.
Scotty Ian, yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, Ian Hill is basis for fucking Judas Priest.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, throw in anybody you want, even like Michael Skolnick or whoever, right? But we still end up with the same Metallica we have, but with that person's influence in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not like changing its direction from heavy metal or popular radio metal or whatever, but into.
We'll see. And I'll put this out there, and that may also be something too, because when you have a personality like Dave Mustaine in the band and he's writing, maybe James and Lars, that Metallica's their brainchild, and maybe they didn't want another overwhelming personality to overshadow their creative work. And dude, even something as simple that could be the actual real reason they made up their mind to get rid of Dave, because Dave's just too damn good.
Yeah, and anything else could be an excuse they could use to say, "Well, we're getting rid of you because you're a drug addict." Right.
Exactly.
But no, yeah. you were dominating us in the freaking production room, and we wanted to be the one with our name on the song, not you. It's not your band, and yeah.
But I'm happy it happened the way it did, because then we wouldn't have Megadeth, and we need Megadeth.
Definitely.
Get you some Megadeth today.
Yeah. Speaking of, we have Pickles merch.
No, we don't. You can't sell that, I don't think, because that belongs to someone online.
No, but we can make some Pickles merch, because I have. I have I have Streamlabs, which is an online program that I use for streaming for my YouTube, right? And in
Yeah.
there, it has a merchandise option where I can create T-shirts, stickers, notebooks, backpacks, hats, hoodies, whatever. I grab my logo, I set it on there, I set the price, and people can buy it. So if you want some Pickles merchandise, we can make some Pickles merchandise.
Dude, that's what we need. We need a black coffee mug with that picture on it, and then on the other side, say "Fear no metal."
Right. Yeah, we gotta adjust the logo a little bit by all means. Get rid of the fucking rainbow on there. You know?
Oh yeah, no, we can totally just go with a totally different design. Just use the picture I sent you of Pickles.
Yeah, definitely.
That one's cool.
I mean, to me, it's kind of ironic because you get this real death metal, freaking badass looking, grungy freaking cat. And then you get this fucking purple and pinkish green fucking Pickles at the bottom. It's like death metal cartoon, you know?
Yeah, Pickles don't take no shit, man.
But yeah, I think we could work on a Pickles logo or something. We can throw it out there. If somebody buys it, all the better. If not, whatever. You know,
Man.
I'll even set the price to where there's like, I think the minimum is you got to make like 20 cents profit or something like that, because otherwise they won't do it. You know, it's not like you can, like, say, it's print to order. So, like, if you order a shirt, they won't print it until somebody clicks on it to order it, right? So it's not like they're gonna run 100 of them and I get a box, and then when you order, I have to pack it and ship it. That's a different story. But like, say the decals, the little stickers, and the coffee mug. I think coffee mug's like $15 or something. I can probably set it to like $11.99. I think wherever it is, it'll go down to the minimum number, but it won't let you go below that. You know,
Right.
because there's a set amount that they need to make in order to make it, right?
Right.
But I can set that profit margin down to almost nothing so that it's not like a profiteering thing. You know, it's not a racket, you know? And if people really want it and we get a badass fucking logo and it takes off and it's Pickles Worldwide Tour, you know, it starts hanging out with Beavis and Butthead next week for all we know, you know?
Freaking Pickles is everywhere. He's nationwide.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
All
see.
right, brother. Well, this has been real good, man, and I enjoyed it. And I look forward to talking more metal. Everybody out there, hope you guys enjoy it too. Keep metal alive, man.
Let's rock.